Hello viewers, we welcome you all for this lecture on social work and environment. In this particular broader topic, we have a presentation on global warming. This global warming is a burning issue, and all are affected by global warming directly or indirectly. There are many definitions on global warming, but I would like to present in a very simple and lucid way so that all the viewers can understand it. So complex shifts in temperature or complex shifts in climate is mainly because of increase in temperature. There are various reasons for the increase in temperature globally and as well as locally. Nowadays, these terms globalization and localization or globalization are gaining importance, because now the entire world is shrinking into a global village because of various technological advancement. What was happening in one remote village, now it is happening everywhere. Or people those who are in remote villages can see what's happening around them, around the world. So now the technology have made these things possible, and there are not much differences between urban and rural factors or reasons which are leading to global warming. So whatever the gadgets, what we see in the urban usage with people in urban area, urban settings, that is also there with the rural people. Maybe it's because of the cultural changes which are happening, and the bridges between the rural and urban variations are shrinking. So these things are becoming very thin. These differences are becoming very thin. The differences between the rural usage of gadgets and urban usage, it's becoming very, very thin. One classical example so that you can understand the number of vehicles, motorized vehicles in rural areas, that is also phenomenally, it's increasing. So global warming refers to the complex shifts in temperature that leads to complex shifts and variations in the climate. So there was a set pattern a couple of years or hundreds of years ago. We can very well predict the seasons and the characteristics of the seasons, but nowadays it is not possible. These seasonal changes are very complex, and the effects are very devastating. So the greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide or methane, nitrous oxide, all these gases are increasing in their quantity because of the overpopulation and other activities. When the population increases, the technology increases, the usage of gadgets, as I have already mentioned, that is also increasing. And again, the number of vehicles, on the road, that's increasing, that lead to the increase in the global warming gases, greenhouse gases. Not only the vehicles, even other gadgets like AC machine and so many other things that we use it, even though whether we want it or not, now they become the basic necessities. Basic necessities, it's increasing globally and as well as locally. And again, there is a great demand in the over usage of energy. Because when the population increases, when the technology and electricity usage increases, we need to increase the production of this energy. So mostly the fossils, the fuel from the fossil fossils, now we are depleting it beyond any reduction. So even though there is a shift in non-conventional energy, but it takes a lot of time and energy to implement it and as well as to sustain it. That's a major problem in non-conventional energy usage and application. So this increase in vehicle is a phenomenal thing. For one example, I tell you, the city where I am in Chennai, every day 100 cars and 500 motorcycles are being added into the road. So the arterial road, we call it as Mount Road or Anna Salai. The size of the road is the same for more than 100 years. Ever since that was laid, the size is more or less the same. But every day, a lot of vehicles are being introduced into the arterial road. So now imagine the number of vehicles that is being introduced, the density that is increasing, the density of greenhouse gases which are emanating from the vehicles when they are flying on these roads. So this is a phenomenal increase and beyond our control. We do not have any checks and balances regarding the production of the vehicles. We simply introduce the vehicles without increasing the road size or producing more facilities for the road usage. Of course, there are developments which are taking place, but they are not good enough to meet the demands created by the increased vehicle usage and other gadgets by the people. So, according to NOAA, National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, between 1880 and 1980, the annual temperature increase, the average annual temperature increase was 0.07 degrees Celsius. But so this is a pre-industrial era. I wanted to understand between 1880 and 1980. But from 1981 onwards, it has sped up to 0.18 degrees Celsius. From 0.07 degrees Celsius to 0.1 degrees Celsius increase, and it is expected to rise up to 2 degrees Celsius in the years to come. What happens? What are the consequences? What are the implications? Even 1 degree rise of temperature that will lead to the melting of glaciers, increasing in the sea level. Most of the major cities, if you see the history of the cities, most of the cities are located on the seashore, including Chennai, cities like Shanghai. Okay, so most of these cities will get submerged. So knowingly or unknowingly, we ourselves, the human beings, we are leading for major devastation because of the extreme usage of the greenhouse gases due to the increased technology and increased standard of life all over the world. So 2016 was considered to be the hottest year in the recent decades. 2019 was the second hottest year. So let me give 3 examples in the recent time so that we can very well understand. In 2004 December, when tsunami struck the coastal areas of the Coromandel coastal areas of India, and even in Chennai, people would have never heard about the term tsunami, but it's mainly because of extreme climate changes. So extreme climate changes are important causes and consequences of global warming. Then again in 2015, Varda cyclone. Sorry, that was in 2016. In 2015, mainly because of the floods, the monsoon in the month of November and December. Within 100 years, in Chennai never had this type of extreme monsoon. So because of that torrential rain within a very short span of time, 3-4 days, the entire city came under the clutches of flood, and we lost more than 500 lives. So it happened within a very short span of time. The present generation, they never heard about this type of extreme climate, and especially the flood in Chennai. And again in 2016, Varda cyclone, and throughout Tamil Nadu, so many trees we have lost. You know how the trees are important in maintaining the balance, and also how they prevent global warming. For example, bamboo trees, they absorb more carbon dioxide and releases more oxygen. So the type of deforestation activities that also leads to global warming. So dear viewers, these are some of the important things that we need to learn with the current events which are happening around us. So the current global warming which are happening around us. When we talk about global warming, in every part of the world, different extreme weather conditions are happening, and people are affected by that. For example, in China, the last year there was a torrential rain and flood, and so many people were affected. So California, wildfire, Australia, wild forest fire, and even this earthquakes which are happening in many places. So we should be mindful of it and work. So the lifeline of uh, the globe, we could say that Amazon forest and how the forest fire, it has affected the environment system in Amazon forest, and how many people are affected directly or indirectly, and as well as how it has affected the native people of Amazon forest. These are all lessons for us. So to address these issues, we have Esther Jessica, the second MSW student, and she will be presenting her assignment topic on global warming, and I'm sure that it will be a matter of full of information to know, to understand, and as well as and also to devise certain ways to deal with the global warming. So with this few words, I now invite Jessie Esther to do this to do the presentation on global warming. Over to Jessie.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, all. So my topic is global warming. I'm sure it is a very familiar topic. So I'm going to be asking a lot of questions. So please get ready. Global warming. The word global was derived from a Latin word globus, which means globe. And warming, it is having a temperature higher than usual. So global warming is a gradual heating of Earth's surface, oceans, and atmosphere caused by human activity, primarily the burning of fossil fuels that pump carbon dioxide, methane, and other greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. So, in simple words, global warming is the increase in Earth's average surface temperature. We're going to be looking at the different causes and effects of global warming. One of the major causes of global warming is greenhouse effect. The greenhouse effect is a process by which radiation from a planet's atmosphere warms the planet's surface. So the gases which have the property of absorbing infrared radiation and other radiations and also the heat and which have this property of emitting it back to the earth's surface or re-radiating it back to the earth's surface. Those gases are known as greenhouse gases. Now before I go on to the next slide, I want any one of you to unmute yourself and name some of the common greenhouse gases that you know.
Carbon dioxide.
Thank you, Stanley. Anybody else? I mentioned it in the last slide also. Methane, okay.
Fluorinated gases.
Okay, thank you, Ananya. So these are the greenhouse gases. We are going to be looking at the properties in the coming slides, but I'm just going to give you an introduction. The first one is CO2 is carbon dioxide, CH4 is methane, HFC is hydrofluorocarbons, N2O is nitrous oxide, PFC is perfluorocarbon, SF6 is sulfur hexafluoride. Now carbon dioxide is emitted by vehicles and burning of fossil fuels, while methane is released into the atmosphere due to agricultural activity, landfills. HFCs are released into the atmosphere by the semiconductor manufacturing. Semiconductors are those materials that partially conduct electricity. Some of the common semiconductors are silicon, germanium, etc. And PFCs are released into the atmosphere because of the aluminium production, and sulfur hexafluoride due to electrical transmission. So now before I go to the next slide, I have another question. So is greenhouse effect good or is it bad? Is greenhouse effect good or bad? Can someone tell me?
It is good at the same time it is bad. If
Who said
it
bad?
gets over an extent.
Me, Abisha.
Abisha, okay. What were you telling, Stanley? Can you come again? Stanley?
Saying to an extent it is good, but after that there's a limit, I said.
Okay. Yes, you are right, Stanley. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, like Stanley said, there is a limit because of greenhouse gases. We get no warmer temperature in our atmosphere. If there's no greenhouse gases, we'll all be frozen to death.
Yes, exactly, Ananya. Thank you. So all of us know what a greenhouse is, right? It is a glass building. It has a glass ceiling, and all those plants that require protection from cold weather are kept inside it. So this glass ceiling, it allows sun to pass through it, which also traps the heat energy and keeps the plants inside it warm, even during at night and also during winter. Now I want you all to imagine our planet Earth. We have atmosphere, right? The atmosphere actually acts as glass. Like here in greenhouse, the glass ceiling, it traps heat. The same way the atmosphere acts as a glass and it traps heat. Greenhouse effect is very essential in keeping the planet Earth warm. Like Stanley and Ananya were saying, in the absence of greenhouse effect, what happens? The temperature of our Earth, it would be somewhere between minus 20 degrees Celsius to minus 40 degrees Celsius. But if the plants receive excess heat, what will happen? They'll burn. The same way, too much of anything is not good, right? Because of human activities, the greenhouse gases have increased enormously in the atmosphere, which trap a lot of heat and re-radiate it back to the Earth's surface, resulting in global warming. The next one is industrial activity. Burning of fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are those fuels that are made from the decomposing plants and animals. So when we burn these fuels, it releases carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide is a harmful greenhouse gas and heat and electricity. It is said that electricity, it approximately contributes to 40% of the global carbon dioxide. Industrial processes, like I was telling before, burning of fossil fuels and other industrial processes, it releases enormous amount of greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, etc. Cement production. How is cement manufactured? Can you see my cursor? I hope you can see this equation here. So this process is known as calcination. What happens in calcination is that calcium carbonate, that is CaCO3, which is otherwise known as limestone, it is heated with other substances. So when it is heated, it releases CaO, calcium oxide. Along with it, carbon dioxide is also released into the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide again is a harmful greenhouse gas. Oil and gas sector, they produce around 225 million metric tons of carbon dioxide every year, and it is also said to be the second largest sector to produce greenhouse gases. So some of the other gases that these sectors produce are methane, nitrous oxide, ozone, which is O3. Agricultural activity. Now, use of organic fertilizers and commercial fertilizers releases this greenhouse gas nitrous oxide. Now, I want you all to look at this diagram. Like you're seeing here, grasses, all the green plants, they are rich in carbon, right? So when cattle, sheep, when cows, they feed on these grasses, and they have microbes in their digestive system that helps the food to digest. So when they burp into the atmosphere, a part of carbon is converted into methane, while the other part is exhaled as carbon dioxide. Now, plants, as we all know, by a process called photosynthesis, it absorbs carbon dioxide and gives out oxygen, while human beings, we take in oxygen and give out carbon dioxide. So this process goes on and on. The part of the carbon that was converted into methane is a greenhouse gas, and it traps heat in the atmosphere, which leads to global warming. Decomposition of waste in landfills. I think Karthik was talking about landfills in his presentation. Landfill is the site for disposal of waste materials. When these waste in the landfill decompose, what happens? It releases a gas known as landfill gas. So landfill gas is a mixture of half methane and half carbon dioxide. So again, methane and carbon dioxide are greenhouse gases. Burning of biomass, burning of plants and animal materials for energy also releases carbon dioxide. Deforestation. I'm not going to get deep into it because we've been discussing it for the past two classes. Deforestation is nothing but cutting of trees, and according to statistics, deforestation is responsible for 50% of greenhouse gas, and 3.5 to 7 billion trees are cut every year. And all these animals, those animals that depend on this ecosystem, are dying because of the cutting of trees. And it is reported that 5 million deaths are caused every year because of deforestation. Now, deforestation can be because of two reasons. It can be natural or it can be due to human activities. So, talking about natural, it might be due to hurricanes, fire, parasites, and floods. Human activities, agricultural expansion, cattle rearing, I'm sorry, the spelling is wrong, dam construction, and mining. Now, why are trees important? How do they help us? See, trees play a very important role in carbon cycle. Now, I want you all to look at this diagram, the carbon cycle. By a process known as photosynthesis, we all know that trees prepare their own food. So these trees have chlorophyll in them, which helps the plant to prepare its own food. So with the help of carbon dioxide, sunlight, and water vapor, plants prepare their own food. So basically what happens during photosynthesis, as I was telling earlier, they take in carbon dioxide, right? So trees play a part in converting carbon dioxide into oxygen. I want you all to see this equation here. So carbon dioxide along with water in the presence of sunlight gives out glucose and oxygen. So it converts carbon dioxide into oxygen, and all the excess CO2 in the atmosphere is removed by the trees. So, and here, I'm sorry, the plants and animals, the plants, as I was telling earlier, they have carbon in them. They use carbon to make food. Animals feed on them. When plants and animals die, the decomposition releases carbon into the atmosphere and soil. And burning of fossil fuel also releases carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So what happens when we keep cutting down trees? We do not have enough trees to convert this carbon dioxide into oxygen or to remove the excess carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. As a result, the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere goes on increasing, leading to greenhouse effect and also global warming. Transportation sector. Movement of plants, goods by cars, airplanes, and other vehicles releases carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. One of the largest sources are passenger cars and trucks, vehicles, etc. Burning of fuels, again, fuel combustion, it releases methane and nitrous oxide. And we all use air conditioners and refrigerator, right? So they give out a gas known as hydrofluorocarbon, which again is a greenhouse gas. Now we are going to be looking at the properties of these greenhouse gases. The first one is carbon dioxide. The molecular formula of carbon dioxide is CO2. It is released from burning of fossil fuels and also by vehicles and different activities, and it is a major contributor of global warming. The next one is ozone. Ozone, the molecular formula is O3. It is formed by burning of gases in cars and factories. Water vapor. Molecular formula of water vapor is H2O. It blocks heat from escaping. So when heat doesn't escape, what happens is it stays in the atmosphere, increasing the temperature of the Earth's surface. Nitrous oxide. Molecular formula of nitrous oxide is N2O, and it damages protective ozone layer. What is ozone layer? In the atmosphere, we have a layer, thin layer, and that is known as ozone layer. It actually absorbs sun's harmful ultraviolet radiation. Ultraviolet rays are very harmful. So the ozone layer, it plays a role in blocking the UV rays and preventing it from reaching the earth. So when the ozone layer is damaged, these gases, they deplete the ozone layer, causing ozone depletion. What happens? The harmful UV rays will reach Earth's temperature, causing a lot of problems for human beings, animals, and plants. Chlorofluorocarbon, the molecular formula CFC, it again destroys the ozone layer. Methane, molecular formula CH4, it traps a lot of heat, and it is also one second most important contributor of global warming. Carbon dioxide and methane are major contributors of global warming. Now we are going to see what global warming is. So in our solar system, we have different planets. We have Mercury, Uranium, Pluto, Neptune, etc. We also have Earth. Earth is one of the planets, but Earth is a favorable place to live when compared to other planets. Now the other planets, they are either freezing cold, or they are either they are either freezing cold or extremely hot. What makes Earth a favorable place to live? See, we have the atmosphere, as you can say. Atmosphere is a blanket of air, and it is a mixture of different gases. What happens? Sun releases radiations. It releases UV rays, infrared rays, and visible rays, and also visible rays are visible light. So what happens? The atmosphere, as I was telling earlier, we have this ozone layer in the atmosphere. Ozone layer blocks the harmful UV rays, prevents it from entering the Earth's surface, and it reflects it back into the space. The infrared rays is also reflected back into the space. Heat is reflected back into space. But what happens? Because of the human activity, since the greenhouse gases have enormously increased in the atmosphere, they trap a lot of heat, and they re-radiate the radiations back to the Earth's surface, leading to global warming, causing global warming. Now let's look at the effects of global warming. The first one is melting of ice caps. Um, uh, Ice in the polar regions, in the poles, North Pole and South Pole, what they do is that they reflect excess heat from back into the space and keep the planet cooler. But since because of the global warming, Earth's temperature is increasing, and because of which the glaciers are rapidly melting. Since the glaciers are melting, what happens automatically? Sea levels are also rising, and also there is an increase in coastline erosion. So coastline erosion is we have rocks and sediments along the coastline, right? So these rocks and sediments are removed. What happens when they are removed? Storm surge increases. So when there is strong winds, these winds push water into the shore, which because there is coastal erosion, rocks and sediments are not along the coastline. As the winds push the water into the shore, it leads to flooding. And also it is a habitat. The poles are habitat for different animals, polar bears, penguins, etc. So when glaciers are melting, it might affect them adversely. Economic consequences. So Nicholas Stern has said that hundreds and millions of people could suffer from hunger, water shortages, and coastal flooding as the earth gets warmer. As we were discussing before, as the earth gets warmer, sea level increases, which causes flood. So here we can see, I would like to, I want you all to remember the 2015 Chennai floods. What happened? A lot of houses were washed away. They all came rushing down. I'm not going to be talking about people who are well off. I'm just going to be talking about those people, poor people who had worked for years to build their houses. But because of floods, what happened? Within it was only a matter of few days. 5 days or 4 days. I'm not sure. All their houses came crashing down. So what will happen? They'll have to again start from the scratch. which means they'll have to again work hard. They have to save money, a lot of economic consequences. So global warming, it not only affects our health, it also affects our economy, and also increased probability of drought and heat waves. Heat waves is a prolonged period, a period of prolonged abnormally high surface temperatures relative to those normally expected. So global warming, because the temperature is high, is increasing every year. It can increase. We can expect frequent heat waves and evaporation. You see what happens in evaporation. The water the moment the water moves from land and water surface into it moves from land and water surface because of evaporation and transpiration. So because of which drought, it increases drought in dry areas. Drought is dry land. So when there is drought, it is very impossible for us to grow crops. When we can grow crops, we cannot live because we won't have food. So this can lead to food shortage and famine eventually. Hurricanes. We can expect more hurricanes and stronger hurricanes. Speaking of hurricanes, what's the name of the hurricane that hit Houston recently? It caused a lot of damage. Can anyone unmute yourself and tell me the hurricane that hit Houston recently?
Can you repeat, Jesse?
The name of the hurricane that hit Houston.
Is it Hurricane Katrina? I'm not sure.
No, Abhisha.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, it's Hurricane Laura. I want you all to watch this video. Global warming also increases the spread of diseases. So what did you understand from the video? Can anyone unmute yourself and tell me? Shiva, are you there? Karthik?
Yes, Jesse.
Yes, Shiva. What did you understand from the video? Shiva, are you there? Okay. Karthik, can you please unmute yourself and tell me? Preeti? Guys? Am I audible?
Hello. Jesse, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, Karthik.
Yeah, the thing I understood from the video is that global warming not alone affects the environment, but also has a serious impact on the health of the growers.
Thank you, you're right. Thank you, Karthik. So these are some of the common infections that are transmitted by mosquitoes. Malaria, we know what malaria is. We know what dengue is. Japanese encephalitis, it is an infection of the brain. And filariasis is also a disease. It is also an infection. And yellow fever, it is acute hemorrhagic disease. Hemorrhage is loss of blood. So now, since all of us know, we are quite familiar with this topic, I think 8 of us are online. So I want each one of you to come up with 1 or 2 points about how we can prevent global warming, or how we can stop global warming. What can we do? What can be done? I want each one of you online to unmute yourself and tell me 1 or 2 points. Let's start with Stanley.
1 or 2 points of
The different ways we can stop global warming, prevent global warming.
yeah, plant more trees, of course. Plant more trees.
Okay.
Then one only, right?
Yeah, fine. Okay. Thank you, Stanley. Then
Me.
Jesse?
yes, Abhisha.
Yeah, I think even stopping the use of cars, like I'm not saying like completely stopping, but then we can always prevent, like if the place is like at a really short distance, then I think we can contribute to, preventing air pollution also, which is also one of the causes why global warming is on the rise. So
Yes.
Yeah. Also, to add on to Abhisha's point, I also thought of the same. Even for a short distance, we are using bikes and things. Instead of that, if we could shift over to cycles, it would be like both helpful to the environment, also to our physical health.
Thank you, Karthik. Ananya, can you please unmute yourself and tell me? Preeti?
Can you hear me, Jesse?
Yes, Preeti.
I think the 3 R's, we should use the 3 R's: reduce,
Yes,
recycle,
exactly.
and reuse. That would be more useful as person and as well as as a community also.
Exactly. Thank you, Preeti. Ananya?
Using energy efficient appliances like solar power.
Okay, thank you, Ananya. I think all of you have answered.
Okay.
Shiva?
Kumar, are you there? He's there, but okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Jesse.
Yes, Shiva. Shiva, you were done.
So, Kumar, do you have any comments or any questions to ask?
Commands. I learned lots of knowledge about this environmental and our around situation and affecting something that malaria, dengue, something like that, and environmental skills. And we will learn about lots of in this PPT. JC, thank you for sharing us.
Okay, Shiva, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Tell me, sir.
Go ahead.
Since all of you have covered the basic and important points about preventing global warming, I'm going to be talking about the role of social workers, what social workers can do about this. So we have an important role in fighting against the environmental injustice, fighting for the environmental justice, for the protection of our environment. And we can also prevent and address the consequences of climate change through community organization, education, advocacy, and research. So I would like to conclude my presentation by quoting Barack Obama, the former president of the United States of America. Climate change is no longer some far off problem. It is happening here, it is happening now. I think it is high time that we start thinking about it. Not only think about it, let's put our thoughts into action. Let's let our thoughts become our words, let our words become action, because there is no planet B. Thank you.